Hi, this is Margaret Meloni, and welcome to the Death Dhamma Podcast. Open and honest discussions with wise and skillful teachers about their experiences with life, death, and Buddhism. If you wonder how others on the path have dealt with death and dying and grief, then be sure to listen in. Everybody has a story, a perspective, and a valuable lesson to share. Embrace death, live a full life, and learn how to love impermanence. Because as my dear father used to say, nobody gets out of this alive. Hi, everyone. So glad you are here with me. Once again, I am guest and host on the Death Dhamma Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about common themes. In our previous episode, we talked about death and privilege, which was a theme that emerged in the interviews with my 12 wise teachers. And today I want to share with you some other themes that came up. But before I do, I have exciting news, and that news is that my upcoming book, Sitting with Death, Buddhist Insights to Help You Face Your Fears and Live a Peaceful Life, is going to launch on September 28th on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. So stay tuned, but it's coming and there's a date, and I'm very excited. And of course, to keep up with me, you can join me on margaretmeloni.com. Keep listening to the podcast because we're not done with season 1 yet. Or go to Facebook and find the Death Dhamma Podcast page. There's so many ways so that you will be among the first to know when that book is really available. Thank you. And on that note today, let's go ahead and talk about common things, common themes that surfaced while sitting and speaking with the 12 wise teachers. I say my 12 wise teachers, but really now on the podcast, they're our 12 wise teachers, right? One of the first things that comes up is that there's a general flow of how we learn about death as human beings. It tends to start off when we are young, and when we are young, many of us, what we learned was about death through the death of a pet, maybe the death of a grandparent, or a young friend of ours had death in another family. But there's kind of a progression. So sometimes I'll say we have the good fortune that life is bringing us these situations so that we can learn, oh yes, there is death. Oh, this is what it means. It means I'm not going to see this dog who I played with every day and adored. Now this dog is gone, or Grandma's not here anymore. But not everyone has the opportunity to learn through this, what I'll call a traditional flow, Some learn at a young age from a really challenging situation. For example, the death of a parent. I can think of 2 who spoke to me about early deaths of parents, loss of fathers, loss of mothers. And one of our wise teachers lost a playmate when she was very young. Now, the challenge is when this happens and we aren't taught how to handle it, how to think about it, it comes up later in life. And so for some of our wise teachers who lost a loved one when they were young, they had the experience of family members kind of brushing it, sweeping it aside, glossing over it, not really having any in-depth discussion. And that could happen for some reasons, right? For example, it could be that the parent who is remaining and trying to help is feeling so overwhelmed and so in grief and in such shock that that parent doesn't know how to speak to their young one. It could be that that parent hasn't learned how to deal with, make friends with death as we're doing together. And so he or she doesn't have what they need to be able to sit down and have this discussion. with a young one. Whatever it is, when we have this kind of denial of death, it pops up later. And, definitely it pops up later for the person who was unable, the parent who was unable to have the discussion. They're going to have to deal with their own things down the road. But what I'm saying is that in our 12 wise teachers, when there was death and their family members were not able to discuss it and process it with them, this was part of what they carried with them. It showed up later in life in terms of difficult behaviors, self-destructive behaviors, addiction, challenged relationships. And certainly then, as our 12 wise teachers, as some of them who went through this path, as they found Buddhism and they sat, of course, these unresolved issues around the loss of a loved one came up to greet them in their meditation. And while that's a difficult thing, we benefited because each person was able to speak to us about it and share their experiences and talk to us about sitting with grief and sadness and anger and denial and just letting it be. And the whole concept of being and noticing and not having to be your emotions. Dealing with death, making friends with death, having this comfort is an acquired skill for most of us. Now, as I recall, Diane Wilde and Seth Segal both mentioned that they felt early on a tremendous comfort with death. They didn't have a fear. They had a comfort. They understood that this was a thing that happened in life, but they also understood that people like me, possibly you, didn't come equipped with that. So it is an acquired skill, a skill that we can learn through our practice and through our ability to accept impermanence, accept death as the ultimate impermanence, and train for death. Because another common theme was that no matter which one of the teachers I spoke with, no one said, hey, this is easy. Even those who came with built-in comfort with death didn't say that death was easy. They just said they came at a starting point where they knew there would be death and that they could accept it. So for most of us, it's part of our dukkha, right? Which is why training for death is such an important part of our practice. Absolutely. The ultimate impermanence is challenging for everyone. Monks, nuns, chaplains, lay people, regardless of gender, age. It's a difficult thing, so don't be too hard on yourselves. And you're going to have feelings. So, of course, we have a theme around you're going to have feelings. Not everyone has the same feelings because not everyone has the same experience. And then within that, you won't have the same experience over and over again. As you go through and you process different losses of different people in your lives, each time is not going to be the same. You're going to have some familiarity. You're going to be like, oh yeah, this is, I remember this. This is hard. This is sad. Oh yeah, I remember that I thought I was done processing grief. And then all of a sudden one day I was in the store and I saw something that reminded me of my mother and I started crying. Or, oh yeah, I remember that even though family members died around this particular holiday still makes me happy because it's my ability. It gives me the ability to celebrate what we have had together in our lives, even though some of us are gone. So you're going to have feelings. Whatever you feel is okay. And I really felt like in my discussion with Seth that he really did such a good job of honing in on this, as did others. But he really came up with just saying, Whatever you feel, it's okay. Accept it. And then I feel like in speaking with Mary Stancavage, she also really helped build on that. Stuff is going to come up. It doesn't have to own you. You don't have to jump in and try to have this like intimate, become one with grief. You can poke your toe in the water carefully. At the beach, some of us jump right into the waves in the water and don't worry about the water temperature or anything. And some of us go, first our feet, then up to our calves, right? Pick the approach that supports you and your state of mind and where you are in your practice. Accept what you feel, notice it, find it in your body. Diane Wild and I had a discussion about finding grief in our bodies. And she talked to me about sitting and investigating, almost like a scientist, of investigating grief and feeling it in herself and noticing how she felt in her body and how it was in her throat. And that was, when she told me that, it was such an aha moment, because I remember in grief, and even now, when I get upset or I feel sad, I feel like someone has punched me in the throat. So that's where I find it in my body. Your experience might be different, but you want to find it and notice it. And this might sound crazy or not. Make friends with it. Make friends with it. And as you notice the feelings and watch them rise and fall and feel them in your body, you are able to make friends, to say, oh, okay, hey, sadness, you're visiting today. Oh, okay. Oh, today's one of those days when my throat is tight. I guess I better have some good hot tea with some honey in it during the day, because today is throat tightness day. And when you do this, it really removes the power that it holds over you. And then you can begin to move on towards more peace. I'm not saying you aren't going to still have sadness and grief. I'm going to say that you're going to have it in a more constructive way, It's not all gloom and doom. So in my discussions with each of the 12 wise teachers, we all had moments where we laughed, where we talked about moments that were more lighthearted. So, death gets a bad rap, which is something I say when I talk about death and I recognize the Grim Reaper. And I say, he's just an escort. He's just here to do a job. He comes with no malice. And there are times when death comes and it is a relief because somebody is having some extreme physical suffering and pain, and we know they're not coming back from it. That's a time where we might greet the Grim Reaper a little bit differently. So it's not all gloom and doom. And in moments that you go through with someone who is dying, you're still going to have some fun together, I hope. That's my wish for you, is work to have some fun and do some fun things together and build some lasting memories. And when your person or persons are gone, as you sit and you share with them, with others, bring up the funny things. Bring up the things that they did that were silly or made you laugh or made you puzzled. Tell those crazy stories. Remember the time when Grandpa got on the motorcycle. Whatever it is, because that's an important part of the experience also. Now, for all of us, consistency in our practice is key. And this came up multiple times as well. Consistency in our practice. And although more than one person brought this up, it was Venerable Sumedha who really said, just keep practicing. Keep reading your texts. If your practice involves chanting, keep chanting. And definitely just keep meditating for absolutely as long as you can. And if your schedule doesn't allow for a consistent amount of meditation every day, don't let that deter you. Do what you can do. If one day it's 5 minutes and the next day it's 35 minutes, and another day it's 55 minutes, that is great. Every little bit, every step helps. It strengthens us. It brings us more calm and more stability. It helps us to recognize the rising and falling of our emotions, the feelings in our body. It allows us to respond with more equanimity. And it also lets us let go of regret. And often in sadness and grief, there's regret. Sometimes it's hidden. Sometimes it's not hidden. We have regret. And what we want to do is work to let go of those regrets, whether it is the regret of a relationship we had with someone else, a regret that they're gone and we can't change that relationship, regrets over things we've done or said in our lives. Oftentimes we have more regrets over what we didn't do or what we didn't say. We want to let go of those regrets. When we let go of the regrets that we have around other people, if they're still with us, it allows us to have a more peaceful, fulfilling relationship. If they're gone, it allows us to have a more peaceful, fulfilling relationship. Because yes, you have a relationship with your deceased loved ones. And if you can come to a place where you no longer think of them with regret, you have a peaceful relationship. Let go of the regrets that you have of what you did or didn't do, because those regrets are in the way of your peaceful death. And one of our overarching important themes is that of peaceful life leads to peaceful death, which leads to a more fortunate rebirth. This has been the Death Dhamma Podcast with Margaret Meloni. Thank you for being here. Your reviews and comments are greatly appreciated. And please come find me on margaretmeloni.com. MargaretMeloni. And don't forget to check out Carpooling with Death, How Living with Death Will Make You Stronger, Wiser, and Fearless. Available in all your favorite formats over on Amazon. And most importantly, may you be well. May you be happy. May you be safe, at ease, and free from suffering. Bye for now.